Hello and welcome to Level of Effort Training, LOE Basics. My name is Jesse Gonzalez. If you have any questions about any of the training, please contact me or my colleague John Trausch.
The LOE, what, why, when, and where. The King County preferred contracting method is a cost plus fixed fee contract. Con 713 defines cost plus fixed fee as follows. Cost plus fixed fee contract refers to a form of contractual arrangement in which the county agrees to reimburse the consultant's actual costs and in addition pay a negotiated fee or profit independent of the amount of the actual cost. What is an LOE? An LOE is a cost summary document that contains the level of effort required at the task level to complete the scope of work being contracted. The LOE document includes direct labor costs, indirect costs, other direct costs, and a fixed professional fee, and accounts for escalation in multi-year contracts. Continued. Why do I need an LOE? The LOE is required by policy Con 772 and is also an exhibit to the standard county agreement for both professional service and architecture engineering contracts. The LOE is also a tool available to all PMs and PRs for estimating purposes. When do I need an LOE? The LOE can be used as an estimating tool at any time. The LOE is required on all new architectural engineering and professional services contracts, amendments that add scope, and all individual work orders exceeding $10,000. Where can I get a blank LOE? The LOE is provided to the project representative during the procurement of each new contract. However, Finance PCO can also provide a copy of the LOE upon request at any time. LOE facts, do's, and don'ts. Fact: the LOE uses macros and must be saved on the same version of Excel or it will not work correctly. Fact: only data input is required. The LOE contains all formulas needed. These formulas should not be changed and new formulas should not be added. Do: make sure all firms, employees, hours, and ODCs are accounted for. Do: make sure base years match on all tabs. Do: make sure the forecasted hours for each subsequent year are accurate on the Escalation input tab. Don't: do not input negative numbers into the LOE. Movement of hours amongst tasks should be accounted for on the contract crosswalk. Do not use only one or two tasks for the whole project. The LOE should be segregated by task as shown in the scope of work for the contract. And finally, let's end this portion off with a quote from Bill Gates. Your level of success in any endeavor is only predetermined by your level of effort. Here is a copy of an LOE, and at first sight it looks a little daunting. There's a lot going on, and certainly many different tabs. But it's important to keep in mind that the LOE is simply an input tab. In filling it out, that's all you're really doing, filling it out. You're not changing any of the calculations or anything like that. So let's briefly go over all of the different tabs. The first tab here being the instructions tab, and it's a basic set of instructions. If we move on, we have the LOE detail input tab, where you'll have a chance to input consultant data as well as task data. Following that is the invoice ODC input tab, and like the tab suggests, that's for or the space here is provided for invoice ODCs. The next tab is the lump sum ODC tab, and like the name suggests here, all of the information here will be those of a lump sum ODC items. The following tab is the escalation input tab, and here you'll have a chance to anticipate the number of hours or the percentage of hours for each task moving forward on multi-year contracts. And it's important to try and anticipate the percentage of hours being used as best as possible, because this information will be used to develop the escalation pool, allowing for employee increases on the contract. The following tab after this one is a simple cost summary. So these the tabs now going forward are simple calculation tabs. It's only in the earlier tabs that you're actually filling out information. Here you'll have the calculation based on the initial tabs. So here we have the cost summary by firm. Following that, we have the cost summary by task. And then finally, we have a cost summary by subtask. There may or may not be an additional tab at the very end titled Escalation Pool Management. This should be hidden. We no longer use this tab, but if for whatever reason you do come across it, please be sure to ignore it. So let's begin building our LOE with the first tab here, the LOE Detail Input tab. And here you'll have a chance to input information for tasks and subtasks, as well as consultant information. So under project title, let's say important project, and contract number 12345. And here you'll have a chance to input task and subtask information. And if you go under add-ins and KC menu, you'll see there's an option allowing you to increase the number of task columns. So let's go ahead and do that. And obviously here you can add as many task columns as you would like. And the same applies for the consultant portion of it here. So let's go back under add-ins and KC menu, and under firm, click on add new firm. And it'll increase columns, allowing you to input further information on consultants. So let's start with our first task, and it's titled Project Management. Task 500. And let's give it a couple of subtasks. For example, meetings could be a subtask. Number 510. And site reviews. Number 520. And here in the blue area, we'll have a chance to input consultant information. So let's say consultant number 1, as well as their employee information. So title here might be project manager. And let's call this person Mr. John Doe. The next step would be to input their number of hours for each subtask. So let's give John Doe 40 hours under meetings and 30 hours under site reviews. And if you scroll all the way down, the same column here, you'll have a chance to give this employee a rate. So let's put them at $45 an hour. And here you have a chance to input the company's overhead rate. So let's say it's 170%. And under fixed fee, let's say it's 26%. And the current escalation rate is 1.8%. And of course, a base year of 2015. So there it is. We've just added tasks and subtasks, as well as consultant and employee information. And we've attached hours to those subtasks. And down below here, we've input all of the different rates associated with that consultant. And like I've mentioned before, the LOE is simply an input tool, so all the calculations are done for you. So let's continue with the Invoice ODC Input tab. And here, like the tab suggests, you'll have a chance to input Invoice ODC items. And like I've mentioned before, all of the information that was previously input on the tabs is carried over. Here we have our task and our subtask and our general information. And here we have consultant number 1. So let's create an invoice ODC for him, for this consultant, in the form of courier service. So that's the invoice ODC, and here we have a chance to input the precise measurement of that ODC. So let's say per service. And just right below here, we'll have a chance to input the number of these ODC items per subtask. So let's say 10 for the subtask of meetings and 20 for the subtask of site reviews, for a total of 30 here. And if you scroll all the way down, you'll have a chance to input the costs for that courier service. on a per service basis, and let's say that's $20. And the LOE calculates everything for you. So now let's continue with the lump sum ODC tab, and it's very similar to the previous, the only difference being that here we input information for lump sum ODC items. So under consultant number 1, let's say mileage and per mile, and let's give the subtask of meeting, say 60 miles, and site reviews about 40. And similar to the previous tab, if you scroll all the way down, you'll have a chance to input the cost for that item. So let's say 56 cents. And as you can see here, all the calculations are made for you. The total cost for this column is $56. So let's move on to the escalation input tab. And here you'll have a chance to include the anticipated percentage of hours used for each task over the course and subtask over the course of the years on multi-year contracts. And it's important to try and get this information down right, because the LOE will use this information to build a pool of allowable funds for employee increases. So let's begin. Here under the first subtask, we have 100% of the hours being used during the first year. And if we left this as such, it would mean that there would be no pool established for the escalation of employee rates. So let's move this around a little bit and say 50% of the hours are going to be used during the first year, and then 25% during the second, and 25% during the third. And for our second subtask, let's say that 50% of the hours were going to be used during the first year and 50% during the second. And it's also very important, and it's sometimes overlooked, but you have to include the escalation base year, so 2015. And you would do this the same way for any other tasks and subtasks. So let's move on to the next tab, the cost summary by firm tab. And from this point onward, these are all calculations and information based on the data provided during the previous tabs. So here, like the title suggests, you will have a cost summary by firm. So for our consultant number 1, which is the only firm on this LOE, we have the total direct costs and total indirect costs, as well as the funds provided for our established pool, escalation pool. Very straightforward. Next is the cost summary by task tab. And so here again we'll have all this information are calculations based on previous tabs. And here we have a cost summary by task, right here in red. Very simple, again, very straightforward. And finally, we have the cost summary by subtask tab. And it's very simple. You have a calculation of the figures for each subtask. And then, of course, right below, an overall figure. And as I've mentioned earlier, the LOE seems a little daunting at first, but do try to keep in mind that you're merely inputting data, and the LOE basically takes care of everything else. All the calculations are there, and so in that sense, hopefully, it becomes a little easier. Thank you very much. Again, my name is Jesse Gonzalez, and if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to contact the Finance PCO office.